They smile at you. They nod. They tell you, "I'm happy for you." But something doesn't sit right. Their eyes are hollow. Their words are slow. And long after they leave the room, you still feel the chill they left behind. You can't explain it. You tell yourself you're being paranoid, that it's just your anxiety. But deep down, you know, not everyone who claps for you wants you to win, and not everyone who walks beside you wants to see you rise. Friedrich Nietzsche knew this long before modern psychology had a name for it. He saw the threat buried not in enemies, but in the people closest to you, the ones who drain you slowly, subtly, quietly, until you're no longer yourself, and you can't remember when the bleeding began. This video isn't just a list. It's a mirror. Because chances are, one of these 5 people is in your life right now. And if you don't name them, they'll keep feeding on your peace. If you're tired of feeling drained, manipulated, or quietly erased, like this video. Because what Nietzsche teaches us here is not for the faint of heart. And if you've ever felt like someone was slowly destroying you from the inside, subscribe. This is your map out. Nietzsche didn't believe in fake kindness. He didn't believe in keeping peace at the cost of the soul. He believed in confrontation with yourself and with the world. He said, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster." And the first monsters you fight, they won't look like villains. They'll look like helpers, friends, family, mentors, supporters. That's what makes them dangerous. So let's begin. The first person Nietzsche warned you about is the one who silently resents your strength. They never say it out loud. They'll never admit they envy you. They may even post about how proud they are of your growth. But every time you win, they flinch. Every time you succeed, they subtly change the subject. Every time you shine, they grow colder, but never so cold that you can call it out. These people don't attack. They erode. Nietzsche understood that most destruction doesn't happen in loud explosions. It happens in quiet compromises. You lower your energy to make them feel comfortable. You downplay your ambition so they won't feel small. You keep your victories soft so they don't feel threatened. And over time, you start shrinking. Not because you failed, but because you let someone else's discomfort become your boundary. This kind of person won't scream at you. They'll support you, just enough to stay close, but never enough to let you feel truly free. And Nietzsche would tell you this: the surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. In other words, you become what you tolerate. And if you tolerate people who resent your power, you'll give that power away just to stay liked. Here's how you know this person is near. You feel guilty for talking about your growth. You censor your wins. You shrink around certain people without even noticing. You feel more drained around them than anyone else. You apologize for your evolution. And when you ask them what's wrong, they say, "Nothing. I'm just tired." No, Mawa. They're tired of pretending they're okay with who you're becoming. So what do? You stop dimming your light. You stop making room for their resentment. You stop giving proximity the power to poison. Because the longer they stay in your space, the more they rewrite your story, until you can't tell whether you're living your truth or managing their insecurities. They don't threaten. They don't need to. Because they've already convinced you that you owe them everything. Every step you take forward, you glance back, not out of fear, but out of trained loyalty. You ask yourself, will this hurt them? Will they feel abandoned? Will they still love me if I grow too far? This is the trap Nietzsche warned us about, loyalty that becomes emotional slavery. They act like they want what's best for you. And maybe they believe they do. But only if it doesn't change your relationship, only if it doesn't challenge the role they play in your life. If you stay small, they'll love you endlessly. If you rise too high, they'll say you've changed, and you'll shrink just to keep the peace. Nietzsche wrote, "In individuals, insanity is rare, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule." And nowhere is this more true than in relationships built on unspoken contracts. The contract says, "I'll always be there for you. You're the only one who understands me. Without you, I'm nothing." But what it really means is, don't ever grow past me. This type of person doesn't destroy you with malice. They destroy you with emotional dependence. They need you to be needed. So they cling, subtly, softly, with guilt, with sadness, with stories of how everyone else has left them. And they plant a question inside you. If I leave, am I just like the rest? And that question rots your freedom from the inside. Nietzsche didn't believe in blind loyalty. He believed in becoming, even if it meant walking alone. He said, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." That is the nature of living creatures. And if you don't obey your evolution, you'll live under the control of those who fear it. Here's how this person shows up. They support you until you talk about something big. Then they go silent. They share their problems endlessly, but never ask about your goals. They need constant reassurance that you'll always be there. They say things like, "You've changed. You don't have time for me anymore," or "You're too busy now." But here's the truth. You didn't change. You just stopped asking permission to grow. And if that makes them uncomfortable, that's not your burden to carry. Because Nietzsche would tell you, become who you are, not who they need, not who they remember, not who makes them feel safe. Who you are. There's a reason this person destroys you slowly. Because they weaponize love. They make care feel like guilt. They turn your loyalty into your leash. And one day, you wake up, exhausted, stuck, surrounded by people who love you, but only the version of you that never left the cage. So what do? You set fire to the contract. You love them, but without shrinking. You care, but with boundaries. You walk, not away from them, but toward yourself. And if they can't follow, let them watch you walk away. That's the second destroyer Nietzsche warned us about. The manipulative loyalist. The one who praises your heart, but quietly chokes your wings. They're always around when you want to escape. They laugh too loud, talk too much, live in drama. They pull you into long, pointless conversations. They make everything urgent. And somehow, you leave every interaction with them feeling more scattered than when you arrived. You love them, but deep down, you know this. Their presence breaks your rhythm. Nietzsche didn't write about bad vibes. He wrote about spiritual pollution, the kind that doesn't come from evil, but from unconscious chaos. He saw how people, without intending to, can suck the discipline, clarity, and strength right out of you. Not because they want to destroy you, but because they have no control over themselves. He said, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties." And these people, they weave invisible threads around your time, your focus, your peace. They're not abusers. They're distractors. They don't hurt you directly. They just keep you so emotionally disorganized that you never get around to building your life. The chaos bringer is that friend who always needs something, always calling, always having a breakdown, always dragging you into the fire, then leaving you to clean it up. They're allergic to stillness, so they pull you into their storm. And over time, you lose your structure, not in a dramatic collapse, but in a slow drift away from who you were becoming. Here's what Nietzsche would warn you. The snake, which cannot cast its skin, has to die. As well the minds which are prevented from changing their opinions, they cease to be mind. And that's what happens when you're too close to chaos. You stop shedding old selves. You stop growing. You stay in the same cycles. Because your mind, once sharp, gets dulled by constant noise. How do you know this person? You lose track of time around them, but not in a good way. You find yourself dreading calls or visits, but you say yes anyway. After they leave, you feel mentally tired and emotionally messy. Your routines suffer every time you let them back in. You start forgetting what you were working on. And the worst part? They don't even know they're doing it. Because this isn't about malice. This is about lack of order and the impact it has on a structured mind. Nietzsche believed that your life is your responsibility, and what you allow into your mental space is a direct reflection of your inner self-worth. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. But chaos people, they disconnect you from your why. They pull you into the how, the endless little fires, fake urgencies, manufactured crises. And slowly, your direction dissolves. You start waking up later. You stop doing your rituals. You're too tired to think, too scattered to act. And that's the hidden destruction. You think you're just being supportive. But in reality, you're giving away the hours that were meant to shape your destiny. You're letting someone else's turbulence rewrite your path, one interruption at a time. So what do? You draw a hard line. You don't hate them, but you don't surrender your peace anymore. You don't answer every message. You don't join every call. You don't sacrifice your morning clarity just to absorb someone else's midnight storm. You start choosing you. And when you do, everything changes. Focus returns. Direction sharpens. Stillness becomes sacred again. And you realize you were never unmotivated. You were never lazy. You were just under siege by other people's noise. That's the third destroyer Nietzsche tried to show you. The chaos bringer. They don't kill your dreams. They just keep you too distracted to remember them. They compliment you. They admire you. They say things like, "You're better than the rest. No one thinks like you. You're the only one I respect." And it feels good. It feels addicting. But Nietzsche would tell you, be careful. Because not every admirer wants you to rise. Some want you to stay just above them, but not too far. This is the most dangerous destroyer of all, the one who seduces you with praise, while quietly controlling your growth. They feed your ego, so you stop feeding your discipline. They say you're wise, so you stop learning. They say you're already strong, so you stop evolving. Nietzsche understood that the most seductive prison is the one lined with applause. He said, "Whenever I climb, I am followed by a dog called ego. And the person who flatters you? They're feeding that dog. Because as long as your ego is full, your urgency to grow disappears. And when that dies, so does everything you were meant to become. You think they're on your side? But watch closely. They never challenge you. They never disagree with you. They never push you to do more. They just remind you how much you've already done. They call your comfort zone greatness. They call your plateau perfection. And you stop moving. Not because they told you to stop, but because they made you feel like you'd already arrived. This is the trap Nietzsche hated the most. He believed that self-overcoming, the process of becoming stronger than who you were yesterday, was the only true path. And flattery kills that process in silence, because it gives you the illusion of arrival without the pain of actual evolution. Here's how you know this person is near. You feel good around them, but never challenged. You're validated, but never stretched. They hype your smallest wins, but never ask what's next. You feel loyal to them because they believe in you, but you've stopped growing since they came into your life, and you'll hear them say things like, "Don't overthink it. You're already better than most. You don't need to change anything." But Nietzsche would ask, better than who? Better for what? By whose standard? Because greatness measured by the weak is just mediocrity wearing a crown. The worst part? You don't even realize you're being held back, because they don't chain you. They praise you, and you become addicted to that praise, to being the one who's figured it out. And that addiction? It makes you stop doing the very thing that built you, growing. So what do? You stay hungry. You stop letting flattery be the reason you stay soft. You question praise the same way you question criticism. Does it help me grow? Or does it just make me feel good? Does this person challenge me privately or only praise me publicly? Because if all they do is stroke your ego, they're not lifting you. They're keeping you comfortable. And comfort is the most elegant kind of death. That's the fourth destroyer Nietzsche wanted you to see. The praiser, not the one who hates you, not the one who fears you, but the one who claps just enough to make you forget that you were made to climb. It doesn't start with conflict. It starts with compromise. You make little changes, harmless things. You stop saying what you really think. You change how you dress. You tweak the way you laugh. You shrink your ambition just a bit, because it makes them uncomfortable. You don't call it betrayal. You call it love, compromise, adapting. But Nietzsche would call it what it truly is, the slow death of the self. You used to speak with clarity. Now you check how they might react. You used to move with confidence. Now you wait for approval. You used to know who you were before they arrived. Now you can't even remember the sound of your own voice. Nietzsche didn't warn us about violence. He warned us about erosion. Because the most dangerous people aren't the ones who scream at you. They're the ones who rewrite you slowly, until your life becomes a script they directed, and you forgot you were ever the author. He wrote, "Become who you are. But how can you do that if you're constantly reshaping yourself to be what they need? This person may never insult you. They may never control you. They may love you deeply, but they love a version of you that no longer exists. And slowly, piece by piece, you hand yourself over. You start laughing at things you don't find funny. You silence your opinions. You give up parts of your routine, your drive, your soul, just to make the relationship work. But it's not working. It's conforming. It's you becoming someone you were never meant to be. This is the final destroyer Nietzsche warned us about. The one who doesn't force you to change, but quietly makes you want to. So you'll stay. So you'll be loved. So you'll be safe. But at what cost? Here's how you know this person is in your life. You're more anxious than you used to be, but you can't explain why. You question yourself constantly. You're more agreeable, but less alive. You look at your life and feel a quiet, aching distance from the person you used to be. And worst of all, you blame yourself. Nietzsche would say, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe, because the tribe doesn't want your truth. It wants your obedience. And when that tribe is a person, they don't want your freedom. They want your belonging, even if it costs you your identity. So what do? You begin again. You remember. You sit in silence and ask, who was I before I became this? You let the old self rise, not with shame, but with power. You take back your voice, your values, your choices, and you realize, if I have to lose myself to keep someone, I was never keeping me to begin with. You don't confront them with rage. You reclaim yourself with clarity. You stop seeking their validation. You stop molding your truth to fit their comfort. You walk, even if it's hard, even if it's lonely, even if they meant well. Because Nietzsche knew this. You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? This is how the strongest version of you is born. Not from winning arguments, not from gaining praise, but from walking away from everything that made you forget who you are. These are the 5 people Nietzsche warned would destroy you. The one who silently resents your strength. The one who manipulates you through loyalty. The one who distracts you with chaos. The one who traps you with praise. The one who slowly rewrites your identity. Each one doesn't just harm you. They dismantle you, piece by piece, until you're still breathing, but no longer you. If this video hit somewhere deep, like it. Not for the algorithm, for the people still lost in those quiet erasures. Subscribe to Psychatic if you're done letting others dictate who you become. And drop this in the comments if you're ready to reclaim yourself. I'm not changing for anyone. Let them see it. Let yourself feel it. Because in the end, you don't become powerful by pleasing others. You become powerful by refusing to disappear.